Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. We are in the Google Los Angeles office today, and this presentation is brought to you by the authors at Google team. To everyone in the room and watching on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. It is my honor and privilege to introduce to you food blogger and very successful cookbook author, Gabi Moskowitz. I met Gabi in, 2000 in Boston, Massachusetts, where we both went to school. And we both collaborated on some very inspired fraternity party planning. And since then, she's moved to San Francisco, where she was a kindergarten teacher for a short time and fell into professional cooking, professional catering, and started a blog called Brokeass Gourmet.
Brokeass Gourmet.
You can find it at brokeassgourmet.com. And since then, she has published the Brokeass Gourmet Cookbook. And she will be demonstrating a recipe of hers today. So, Gabi, here you go.
Thanks, Benji. Thank you. This is so fun. So, as Benji said, my name is Gabi, and I'm a professional food blogger, and I just wrote my first book, the Brokeass Gourmet Cookbook. The deal with Brokeass Gourmet is that all the recipes cost less than $20 to make. And it's not just, howtoavoidstarvation.com. It's really how to eat well, how to eat restaurant-inspired gourmet food without spending a lot of money. The genesis of the blog happened when I was living in San Francisco in 2008, and in fall of 2008, the bottom kind of fell out of the economy. And I noticed this trend. I had all of these friends who had jobs at places like Google or Facebook, and they were working crazy hours. They'd gotten these jobs right out of college, and they were fed, as you guys are, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks if they need. And in the process, had not developed any sort of domestic skills. So when they lost their jobs and their incomes, suddenly they found themselves eating a whole lot of frozen burritos. And that just made me sad, because I grew up learning how to cook. My parents taught me how. It was a big part of my life. And then when I was a teacher on a very meager salary, I had to really learn how to make ends meet. But I grew up in Sonoma County, and so eating well was always a really big priority for me. So Brokeass Gourmet really came from a place of wanting to teach my peers and everybody else that eating well is not that hard to do. And being able to afford great food is not hard either. So the book really focuses on that. It's sort of a primer for people who are new to the kitchen, but it's also great for more experienced cooks who are trying to really streamline their food. The backbone of the blog and the book is what I call the $50 pantry. It's $50 worth of things that you need to have at all times. And you add a few fresh ingredients, and then you've got a real meal. So sort of basics for setting up your pantry. I've also got how to set up a budget bar, how to create a basic shopping list, that kind of stuff. And I think it's really great for people who are just starting, or as I said, people who are trying to streamline their cooking. So today, I'm going to be making one of my favorite appetizers, Vietnamese spring rolls with peanut sauce. I'm doing a vegetarian version, but this is one of those things that is so cheap, especially if you live near a good Asian specialty grocery store. You can find everything involved so inexpensively. And it's one of those things that people take a bite of, and they're so impressed with you. And that's the other piece of it, is I really like getting credit for things that weren't that hard to do. And this is a really good example of that. So anyway, we're gonna get started. And the peanut sauce, for the record, is one of the yummiest things you can make. I like to make a big thing of it in the beginning of the week and just use it in lots of different ways. I'll pour it over noodles, vegetables. It's really good over grilled salmon. It's great as a dip with crudité. You know, cut up some carrots and celery and bell peppers and just serve it like that. And the spring rolls are basically the perfect accompaniment for it. So I'm going to get started, and there are a few ingredients here that you can take or leave or swap out for something different. So for example, I love cilantro, but I know not everyone does. So if you don't love cilantro, you could either skip it, you could use finely chopped scallions or chives, or even a little flat leaf parsley, give it a nice kick. But I'm going to use it today. And the other thing that some people don't love is the sriracha. So if you're not a spicy person, just skip it. So I'm starting with just some basic creamy peanut butter. The recipe obviously is in the book, so I'm not going to talk about amounts. Peanut butter is a pantry ingredient, something I include on the $50 pantry list because it's one of those things that is relatively inexpensive, it's high protein, and it can be used a whole bunch of different ways. So that's there. This is coconut milk. Coconut milk comes in a can. It's not very expensive. I highly recommend buying the kinds that are imported from Thailand or Vietnam, but any kind will work. I don't like to use light coconut milk because I find it to be too watery, but if that's your preference, then it can certainly be substituted. And this is going to give the peanut sauce a really creamy consistency, and it's going to blend with the peanut butter to make sort of a really nice base for the sauce. Then I've got some honey. And I call for honey in this recipe, but brown sugar would also work, even white sugar, agave nectar. If you're avoiding sugar, then something like Splenda would work, or stevia. It's really important to balance flavors. So we've got some sweet, we've got the peanut butter is a little bit savory. We're gonna have some more savory things. This is some fresh lime juice. And limes are so cheap, I really recommend against buying the bottled kind, because it's so much better to just get a fresh lime. And this is gonna add some of the tartness to the sauce. And then I would say maybe 95% of good savory food requires garlic, so of course we're gonna get that in there. I've also got some rice vinegar. If you were making this and you didn't have rice vinegar, you could add an extra lime. You could add a little white vinegar. I would recommend against balsamic because it's a little bit too heavy in flavor, but any sort of white vinegar, I've made it with champagne vinegar or even white balsamic will work in a pinch. All right, then I've got some soy sauce, which is another important pantry ingredient. Soy sauce helps take care of that umami flavor, and it just brings a lot of depth of flavor without costing a whole lot. I've also got some fresh ginger. A really important principle of Brokeass cooking is to use fresh things like herbs and spices because a container of dried ginger, first of all, won't provide much of an impact of flavor, and it will cost a lot more than buying a big chunk of fresh ginger. So this, I think, is much more worth it. So we're gonna get that in. Okay, and then I've got some sriracha. You could also use something like sambal, any sort of Asian chili sauce. I've even done it before with Tabasco. You just want to get some fire in there. Even fresh jalapenos would work. And it's really easy. You just put this on, and it's going to be a little loud. All right, and I'm going to add some fresh cilantro now that we've got it nice and smooth. Because this is a Vitamix, I guess I could have put it all in, but my food processor at home is not quite as powerful. There we go. All right. So I'm just going to grab one of these. And when I serve it, I like to kind of go like this. You eat with your eyes first, as I'm sure you know. And when you're not spending a lot of money on groceries, it's nice to just sort of go that extra step to make the way your food looks a little special. So we're going to do that with a spiral today. And that is the peanut sauce. I'll set that there for now. And now we're going to make the spring rolls. Now these are one of the most fun things to do with a group. Sometimes I like to have, I'll have like a spring roll and pot sticker party, and I'll put out all of the wrappers and fillings, and everyone hangs out and rolls them together. And it's a really cool way to get people together, to get them interacting with their food. You can do the same sort of thing with a sushi party. So the base of a Vietnamese spring roll is these things. And these can be found at most Whole Foods stores. I don't know the Los Angeles grocery store scene very well, so I'm not sure if you could get this at something like Ralph's. But definitely Whole Foods, any sort of, definitely any Asian grocery supply store. And I would say probably most organic focused health food stores carry these. They're like $1.99 at most for a package of 30 or 40. And they're basically just rice, really finely ground rice and water. So the fillings I'm going to be using today are vegetarian, but the possibilities are limitless when it comes to Vietnamese spring rolls. You could add, I've done it with grilled chicken and avocado before. I do a really nice one with raw salmon and mango and some fresh mint. That's really delicious. You could go a little bit more of a traditional route and do grilled pork and shrimp. That's great. Avocado is always really good. Today, I'm just going to be doing some really basic vegetables, and that helps keep it really inexpensive. Makes a really nice lunch. So it takes a little practice to figure out how to do this. But once you get it, it's really not that hard. So you want to dip this disc of rice stuff into sort of lukewarm water. You don't want it to be too hot, or then it'll sort of fall apart in your hands. So you can see it's already starting to become more pliable. So I'm just going to set it down on a clean, dry surface. And on the bottom, I'm going to put some fresh mint leaves. And it creates sort of a stained glass look by placing them face down like this so that they're facing out. So go like that. And then, as you can see, all these veggies that I have been sliced thinly, and they're all about the same size. And that is really going to help. So over here, I've got some very thinly sliced scallions. And the chef did an awesome job with this. These are even thinner than I usually do them at home. Usually, you could just cut a scallion into, like a chunk of scallion into 3 or 4 slices, and it works just fine. But this is beautiful. So we arrange it like that, sort of going in the same order. And then I'm just going to pick up some of these carrot matchsticks. And if you do not feel like cutting your own carrot matchsticks, the pre-bagged kind that you get at Trader Joe's or most grocery stores in the prepared produce section, that'll work fine. A little bit more expensive, but if you don't feel like shredding a ton of carrots, it might be worth it. Then I've got some bell peppers. I'm going to go in the same direction. And some cucumber. A really nice substitution for the cucumber is jicama. So then you just tuck in the edges. And then the trick here is to fold it up really tightly. There's a spring roll. And then this is the most fun part. You slice it in half, and you have this beautiful little mosaic of vegetarian deliciousness. So I'm going to just do a few of these and kind of arrange them on this platter, just to give you an idea. And then I think we actually have some to taste. Are those back there? So you maybe want to pass some around. So we've got some peanut sauce and some spring rolls to taste. And I'm just going to make a couple more. Another great filling, if you're doing these for a party, is to buy places like Costco or other big bulk stores sell actually really decent pre-made pulled pork. There's like a Niman Ranch pulled pork that's pretty inexpensive considering the amount you get, and that makes a nice filling for something like this. If you want to go a little bit less traditional. I'll just do one more and then show you what it looks like. And the trick is really not to let this get too wet, because then it gets really hard to work with.
That is super yummy peanut sauce.
Oh, really? Good. I'm glad you like it. It's really, it's like crack peanut sauce. It's so good. All right, and so I would just sort of go like that, and then add some peanut sauce, and maybe take a little fresh cilantro, and then if you're feeling really, like you're into molecular gastronomy or something, which I'm totally not, but I have a lot of respect for it, maybe do something fancy like that. And for just a few bucks, you have a really cool, easy appetizer. Thank you.
Could you list a few of the things that are on your $50, things you should have in your pantry list?
Do I have the list?
Yeah, can you name a few of the other ones besides?
Yeah, sure. All-purpose flour, extra virgin olive oil. And in the book, I actually talk about some of the extra virgin olive oils that are a good bargain that are out there, because I really don't think you should be buying like crappy bleached flour or bottom of the barrel olive oil. I think that you should be buying quality things, but you don't have to spend a lot of money. So I include some tips on that. Things like baking powder and baking soda and kosher salt and black pepper, things that you'd be really surprised a lot of people don't think of. So those are some of the basics. Let's see, mayonnaise is another great one, because a cool trick to do with mayonnaise is to make a quick aioli with a variety of things. Just toss it in a blender or even whisk it together with some chopped garlic and a little lemon juice and salt and pepper. Or my favorite is mayonnaise and sriracha together. Eat it with sweet potato fries, and it's unbelievable. So those are some examples.
Do you get the inspiration for your recipes?
My inspiration? So I live in San Francisco in the Mission District. And I don't know if anyone knows that area, but it's turned into like a culinary mecca / ghetto. It's awesome. It's I live right by Dolores Park and 18th Street. There's just restaurant after restaurant full of inspiration. And so one of my favorite things to do is to go during happy hour, when a lot of times small plates are offered at a reduced price, and taste things and get inspiration. I'll make notes. And I also read other blogs constantly and cookbooks. I watch not that much food TV. I'm not really that into reality television, but I do love watching things like Iron Chef sometimes, that you can get a lot of ideas there. But mostly from restaurants.
What are your top 5 restaurants in Los Angeles?
I don't know. I don't know. I love, there's this place, I think it's around here, called Gelina, an Italian spot. Gelina, that's great. I really don't know the LA restaurant scene. I could tell you.
How about San Francisco?
San Francisco, okay. Let's see. There was this wonderful Pakistani restaurant that just closed a couple weeks ago called Lahore Karahi. But the guy who owned it is going to be opening up another one, and it was this hole in the wall, but for $9 or $10 a person, you could eat incredibly well. I live very close to a great restaurant called Delfina on 18th Street in San Francisco, and it is outrageous, and it has amazing pizza. We're sort of, there's a big pizza trend right now in San Francisco. Everybody's trying to outdo each other with like wood-burning stove pizza. So that's definitely up there. There's this sushi spot. It's 16th and Valencia in San Francisco called Sushi Yo-Yo, and it's another one of those magical gems where you can get incredibly fresh fish, really innovative rolls and things like that for not a lot of money. And it doesn't look like much, but you go in and it's great. One of my favorite gastropubs is this place called the Monk's Kettle. That's an awesome spot. And then there's this nameless dim sum place on Clement Street. I don't know what it's called, but it's directly across the street from Green Apple Books.
First of all, you've ruined peanut sauce. It was the best kept secret. It's so easy to make, and now everybody knows about it.
Awesome.
That was like my favorite go-to. Now the secret's out. So I love cooking, and one thing that I just can't master is making my own pizza dough. Do you have a kitchen nemesis that you just can't?
No. Okay, well, first of all, I have a second book coming out, and it's all about things to do with pizza dough. You should check out my pizza dough recipe because it's awesome. It really is. I get that it's tricky, but I have a really simple recipe. Check it out. So that's the first thing. Do I have a kitchen nemesis? I did. And you can read about it in the book. It took me a really long time to get homemade mayonnaise down. And so I tell a story in the book. I don't think I include this detail, which I'm about to share, which is that the most, well, not the most recent time I made it, but I tell a particular story about a time when it was like a week after I had been unceremoniously dumped. And I'm standing in my kitchen and I'm trying to make aioli for my blog because I'm trying to distract myself with work and it's not working, and it looks like, just as it had every other time I'd made it, a useless pile of oil and eggs with a few drops of vinegar. But the cool thing about when you have a kitchen nemesis that I have learned is that you can Google whatever it is you're trying to make. Thanks for that, by the way, guys. I really appreciate it. And there are forums on everything. And so I bet if you search like trouble with pizza dough, first of all, you will find a whole group of supportive people who you can talk to about your troubles with pizza dough. But you can also get some suggestions. So the thing I learned from looking up mayonnaise is that if you add a few, if your mayonnaise breaks, which is what it's called when it falls apart and it just looks like eggs and oil, it doesn't look like anything else, you slowly add drop by drop a little bit of water, and you whisk and whisk and whisk, and it brings it back to life. And it fixed it, and I felt a lot better. And I bet there's a solution with pizza dough. While we're talking about pizza dough, can you tell me sort of what goes wrong?
It usually just ends up more bready than pizza doughy.
More bready than pizza doughy?
Yeah, it's too thick.
Okay.
It's not like New York pizza.
Here's the deal. So first of all, you may be using a little too much flour. The other thing is the difference between like a puffy piece of white dough, bread dough, or bread, and then pizza dough is that there's more gluten in pizza dough. And I know we're in like a war on gluten or something right now, but you need to probably knead it more. or leave it in your stand-up mixer for longer because
I've tried everything. I've done it by hand. I've done it in the KitchenAid mixer. I bought a bread maker.
Oh.
It's just I am not able to slay this dragon.
well, you should try my recipe for sure. And I mean, it is the thing I hear the most from people that it works for them. So that's one. But then the other thing is maybe, or even if it's not my recipe, maybe try a few different recipes. Which recipe are you using?
Again, all.
All?
Yeah, I mean, I just go online and, but unfortunately I'm trying to duplicate probably like a New York style pizza, which is probably
Okay.
something that's pretty
Well,
hard to do. But
here's another thing to think about. You may not be rolling it out thinly enough when you bake the pizza because, if you ever watch them in pizza restaurants, they roll them out. It's like super thin because there's yeast in it. It puffs up a little bit. So that may
how
be
long
an
do you
issue.
let yours rest? Can you
What-
make it the same
what's
day?
that?
Or do you really let it sit overnight or?
Oh, no. I only do a short rise. I'll do 2 short rises, like 2 25 to 30 minute short rises, and that seems to work. It is kind of cool to, after you've made it, put it in an oiled Ziploc bag and leave it in the fridge. And what happens is the flavor develops over time, so that's really great. Another good trick to make it thin without breaking it is to take a bowl like this and flip it over and lightly flour it and put your stretched out dough on top, which will help it maintain its shape and keep it thin without breaking it. Because it can be sort of hard to pull, to pull by hand.
Is there an 800 helpline?
It's a 900 line, actually.
I was hoping you could talk a little bit about your experience actually starting your blog and working with your blog and using social media to promote it.
Sure. So I did not plan to be a food blogger. That was not the game plan. I got a degree from Emerson College in theater education. I got a job right out of college teaching kindergarten. And it was great. It was really fun. And after about 3 years, I kind of got to a point where I started to feel like maybe this wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I started thinking about what it was I did want to do. And one of my favorite things to do in the classroom had been cooking with the kids because it was a great way to teach reading. I'd have them read the recipes, science. We'd talk about how yeast works, how baking soda works, things like that. And math, because there's, if we were doubling the recipe, they'd have to figure that out. And sharing, and also a greater understanding of where food comes from and what goes into cooking and buying food and things like that. So, and I did want to continue teaching in some way. So I kind of started, it was sort of a funny idea that developed into an actual business, this catering business. I would cater parties, and I would also do a lot of teaching. I would teach people how to cook basic things. I would do cooking classes for kids. I would do cooking parties, and it was really fun and much more lucrative than teaching, and it was great. And that was going okay. And then a friend of mine and I started talking about sort of this trend we were noticing where all our friends were having a hard time managing to feed themselves well. So I had been writing a Blogspot blog, and it was called Out of the Pantry. It's still up there, GabiMoskowitz.com. And it was like a combination of personal stories and recipes and drawing comparisons between cooking and personal stories and things like that. And so I sort of made the leap into blogging solely about food. And to my utter shock and surprise, 2 weeks after I launched, MSN Money ran a story about us. And all of a sudden, we went from, a few hundred hits to like 30,000 overnight for a week or so. And so I very quickly determined that I needed to monetize this thing. And I managed to get some ads. I work with Say Media, who are fantastic. And I also got syndicated. So there are a variety of newspapers and websites and magazines that run my content regularly. And it took about a year, but I got to a point where I could leave my day job and blog full time. And then in January of 2011, a publishing house, Egg and Dart, reached out to me and offered me a book deal. So I feel unbelievably fortunate to get to do the thing I love the most for a living. And it's thrilling and tons of fun. And I can't wait to find out what's going to happen next. So that's sort of the journey.
Hi, so my question is more about tools in the kitchen. So you've talked a lot about the ingredients that you put into your food, but if somebody is a beginner cook, they probably need to have at least like some knives, cutting boards. Can you talk a little bit about what are some basic things you should have in the kitchen?
The favorite things to have in the kitchen, like tools?
Basics.
Basics, okay. So one of the things that I recommend people have, once you've got your basic stuff, your knife, your cutting board, a few simple pots and pans, you can go, I always tell people, go to Target or Bed Bath & Beyond and get one of the kits. There are these sets that come with, won't cost you that much, particularly if you remember, like I never do, to bring your Bed Bath & Beyond coupon. That just comes with all the basics. Good cutting board, good knife, salt and pepper shakers, that kind of thing. An immersion blender. Particularly if you have a small kitchen and you don't have a lot of space to work with and you don't have a lot of money to spend, buy an immersion blender for 40 or 50 bucks. Again, slightly less if you remember the coupon. It's great for making soups directly in the pot. Once you start making soups that way, you will never bother to pour hot liquid into a food processor or a blender again. It's so much better. But the other thing is they typically come with a few different attachments. So mine came with a little chopper attachment. So it's like one of those mini Cuisinarts. So the attachment, the base of the immersion blender fits onto the chopper attachment, and I can chop ginger, garlic, onions, anything. It's great for making hummus or pesto, any sort of paste-like dip. And that's really great. And then it also comes with a whisk attachment, which is excellent for making whipped cream or beating egg whites if you were going to make a souffle or something like that. Or even just if you're making, say, omelets for lots of people and your arm is getting tired from whisking and whisking and whisking. That's a great tool to have. And it also comes with a cup that's like about this big, and you can place the whole immersion blender into it, and that's really great for making smoothies or margaritas or things like that. So I would say that is just, there's so much value in that little tool that I highly recommend that. It's always good to have 2 or 3 good wooden spoons, some rubber scrapers, a good pancake flipper, which you can use for just about anything. Tongs are great. And a really nice tip for shopping for this kind of stuff, by the way, if you don't go to Target, is to go to like a restaurant supply store. Because even if you don't get the discount, usually you have to have a business ID number to get a full discount. But even if you don't get the discount, you're still going to be able to find the products there for a whole lot less money than if you were buying them at sur la table or something like that.
If you've taught a lot of beginners, you must have seen some of the same mistakes over and over again. Can you help us avoid those pitfalls?
Sure. Well, a really important thing is whenever you're working with hot chilies, wash your hands. Or if you're working with the vein, so these are red bell peppers, but you can even see here, all peppers have this white vein. Don't touch it with your hands if you can avoid it. And definitely don't touch your girlfriend with your hands after you touch it. So that's really important. Really the number one thing that gets people in trouble in the kitchen is a lack of confidence. And they get all bogged down. You don't see people in the kitchen like just blazing forward Very rare to see that kind of thing. It more tends to be that people feel like they can't do something, so they reread the recipe 100 times, and while that's happening, their sauce burns or something like that, or really it's okay, but people feel like it's not. So there are, like I was saying before, there are solutions out there that are really readily available for most common kitchen problems, but the number one solution is to know that if you're working with, this is not brain surgery. If you're working with fresh ingredients and you're not trying to flambe everything, it's probably going to turn out pretty well. And if it doesn't, you're the only one who's going to know. So just accept the compliments when they come. But yeah, I can't really think of anything that's a major no-no that people do all the time. I've seen kinds of silly things, like I had a roommate who refrigerated red wine because she thought it goes bad. So I had to explain, it's fermented and it's not going to go bad. I guess a really common kitchen mistake is, and it's really a financial mistake also, is that people let the food in particularly their vegetable bin, go bad. And if and it happens a lot when people have a CSA box and don't really go through and use everything regularly, and that's just basically taking money and putting it in the compost bin. So, I really advise people to only buy what they're going to use and really make a point to use it.
Yeah, do you have any favorite radio food shows? I know there's a whole bunch of good food shows on the radio.
On the radio? Yeah. There's this great one out of Sonoma County called Dining Around with Gene Burns, I think his name is. And he's a really fun host, and he talks to different food specialists. He goes to different restaurants. He's pretty cool. Yeah, I would say that's probably my favorite one. I don't listen to a ton of radio, but you're right, there are a lot of really good ones out there. Thank you. Thank you very much.